Unexpected. Taehyung admits shedding tears during duet with Jungkook at J-Hope's concert. Hello everyone. Before we dive into the full story, welcome to the channel, your home for deep. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the inside stories that keep the ARMY heartbeat alive. Because today, we're pulling back the curtain on a truth Taehyung only recently admitted, a truth that stunned fans worldwide. The stage was already electric. It was J-Hope's big night, a solo concert that wasn't just about his music, it was about family. That's why he invited Taehyung and Jungkook to join him for a special performance. On paper, it was just another duet, two voices blending together over a melody. But for the members of BTS, for ARMY, and especially for Taehyung, it was something deeper, far deeper. His gaze lingered on Jungkook longer than before. His lips trembled slightly between verses. And then, just as the bridge swelled, his eyes began to glisten. Nobody knew it then, but weeks later, Taehyung would admit it himself, he had shed tears during that duet. Not for the crowd. Not for the performance. But for a reason that has roots in the very soul of BTS's journey. So why? To understand, we have to rewind, not to the start of the concert, but to the start of their story. Picture Seoul in 2013. 7 young men, barely adults, thrown into a world where failure wasn't an option. They trained, lived, and dreamed together, but it wasn't always easy. Taehyung and Jungkook, in particular, grew up in the same crucible, two boys from different backgrounds who became brothers through shared hardship. They watched each other stumble, improve, fight, laugh, and cry in ways the public never saw. Over the years, they became each other's silent anchors, even when the waves of fame threatened to pull them apart. That bond had weathered storms, grueling tours, endless schedules, public scrutiny, and the weight of representing an entire generation of music. And yet, on that night at J-Hope's concert, Taehyung wasn't thinking about the storms. He was thinking about something else entirely, the realization that moments like these were rare and fleeting. J-Hope was serving in the military. Jin was already enlisted. BTS's group activities were on pause, their futures uncertain. This duet wasn't just a performance, it was a reminder that the golden days weren't guaranteed to last forever. And as Jungkook sang beside him, with that same fire he had all those years ago, Taehyung felt a lump in his throat. The music swelled, the lights shifted to a deep amber, and Taehyung's voice carried a weight the audience could feel but not quite define. Each note seemed to say, "Remember this. Remember us." And maybe that's why, as the final note faded into the cheers of thousands, Taehyung's eyes welled up, not in sadness, but in the overwhelming gratitude of being present in a moment he knew could never be recreated. When he finally spoke about it later, his words were simple but disarming. He admitted that during the song, he had felt an unexpected rush of memories and the closeness of family. He hadn't meant to cry, but the tears came before he could stop them. What makes this revelation even more powerful is that Taehyung has always been careful about showing vulnerability on stage. Sure, fans have seen him smile, joke, even pout, but full, raw emotion? That's rare. He's the kind of person who prefers to carry his burdens quietly, only sharing them in small pieces. Which makes this moment all the more telling. Jungkook, of course, noticed. There's a split second in the concert footage where his eyes flick toward Taehyung, his expression softening just slightly. He didn't say anything, didn't break the performance, but it was enough. Enough to show that even after all these years, they still read each other in ways words can't touch. And here's where it gets even more fascinating, because this wasn't the first time Taehyung's emotions had quietly surfaced during a performance with Jungkook. Longtime ARMY might remember certain award show stages, late-night V-Lives, or even rehearsal clips where the two would exchange looks that seemed to carry entire conversations. But this time, the emotion wasn't about the stress of work or the exhaustion of travel, it was about the deep, unshakable bond between two people who had walked through fire together and come out still holding on. What most people don't realize is that moments like this are vanishingly rare in the music industry. Groups come and go, friendships fade, and often the pressures of fame pull people apart rather than pushing them closer. But for Taehyung and Jungkook, the opposite seems to be true. Their connection hasn't just survived, it's evolved. And so, when J-Hope invited them to share his stage, it wasn't just an act of camaraderie, it was an unspoken reunion of the heart. A chance for Taehyung to stand beside Jungkook, to hear his voice in harmony with his own, and to feel, if only for a few minutes, that nothing had changed. But deep down, he knew everything had. The cheers of the crowd that night masked something else, the ticking clock of BTS's current chapter. Military service, solo projects, the uncertainty of when they'd all stand together again, it all hung in the air like an invisible weight. And perhaps that's what broke through Taehyung's composure. Not sadness exactly, but the bittersweet ache of knowing that even the most beautiful moments have an expiration date. The irony? The fans who were there, who captured every second on their phones, didn't know they were also capturing something even more valuable, the last raw threads of a feeling that's nearly impossible to explain unless you've lived it. And that, well, that's where the Real story begins. Backstage, the noise of the crowd still echoed through the walls like distant thunder. The air smelled faintly of sweat and stage lights, warm, electric, and charged with leftover adrenaline. Taehyung stepped off the platform first, a towel slung over his shoulder. He tried to mask his emotions with that easy smile he's perfected over the years, but Jungkook caught the subtle redness around his eyes. J-Hope, still buzzing from the energy of the night, pulled both of them into a hug. It was brief, but in that moment, words didn't matter. They all knew what this meant, three brothers, together in a rare moment of unity during a time when their paths were temporarily diverging. The hug was both celebration and silent acknowledgement. Later, as the staff bustled around, packing up equipment and clearing the stage, Taehyung found himself in a quiet corner of the dressing room. His phone screen glowed with a flood of messages, friends, family, even a few members who couldn't be there in person. But one message stood out. It was from Jean, who was serving in the military at the time. It read simply, "I saw the clip. You looked happy. That's all I want." As the final curtain fell that night, and the crowd's cheers faded into memory, three brothers walked off stage together, Taehyung with the dampness still lingering in his eyes, Jungkook with a knowing smile, and J-Hope beaming like the sun that had brought them together. It wasn't just a concert. It was a quiet vow, unspoken but understood, no matter the distance, no matter the time, we'll find our way back to this.